Hi guys, I thought I might as well, while I'm here, do my labour and delivery stories with my first two children, with my son Levi and my daughter Nikki. I don't know if I'll fit it all into this video. It might be 2 parts or 3 parts. I'm not sure, but I'll have a go at keeping it to a minimum. My first pregnancy, I'm just gonna briefly tell you how it went. I got pregnant. Some of you might know that Levi is not actually my husband's son. I was in a previous relationship for a while, and in that relationship I conceived twins. I didn't know at first that it was twins, and then at 6 weeks, I still didn't know it was twins. At 6 weeks I started bleeding quite heavily, and I went to hospital after hospital. Obviously I was a little bit naive. I went to hospital after hospital, and they all kept telling me the same thing. Oh, you're just having a miscarriage, go home, relax, take it easy. You know, there's nothing you can do. But even though I was bleeding quite heavily, and when I say heavily, it would be like, you know, I could have, say for example, a bucket, you know, that, don't know if you can see my hands, that deep, and almost fill the bucket with bleeding. It was only much later on that I realised I was actually hemorrhaging, not just having a miscarriage. But the hospital after hospital, they just told me, oh, you're just having a miscarriage, go home. But all the time I still felt very pregnant all the way through. At the end, at 7 weeks, I was examined by a doctor, and she says, yes, you are still pregnant. And then probably a week or so later I was examined again by a different doctor at a different hospital, and they said, I was still bleeding quite heavily at this point, and she said, yes, you're still pregnant, but it looks as though it was twins and you've lost one, so just go home and rest and take it easy. I was kind of happy and sad at the same time. I was happy I was still pregnant, sad that obviously I'd lost one of the babies, and I went home and tried to take it easy, but all the time I was still bleeding heavily. I held on to baby number 2 for 15 weeks, 15 and a half weeks. And then, no, at 15 weeks I went into hospital because I was losing so much blood. And when they checked me, when I fell pregnant, I was living in London. The care system where I am now is a lot more efficient than it was in London. And they called me into hospital. As soon as I called the hospital, well, my mum did. They called me into the hospital and checked me over. And they said that the baby had moved quite low, and the chances of survival were very, very slim. But they said that there was still a very strong heartbeat. They told me that even though the care was very good, they were very kind of like, oh well, she's 15 weeks, she's going to lose it, doesn't matter, we don't care, kind of attitude. They told me that, you know, they weren't going to assist me in delivering the baby. I had to go into labour and deliver the baby in due course, and that there was nothing they could do. They kept me in the hospital, and said, you know, oh, if you feel to push, don't sit on the loo, don't sit on the toilet, we'll give you something, and blah blah blah. But I was given no pain relief, I was given no antibiotics, I was given nothing. I was left in a side ward all by myself, in a little room, all by myself. And, you know, it was late at night, my partner was still in London, I was on my own. My family were around, but obviously, you know, they weren't there at the hospital with me. eventually that at 15 weeks I went into labour on my own and delivered my baby into a bedpan on the toilet. And I was screaming for them to put my baby back. When I actually went into labour, I just knelt by the end of the bed and held onto the post and just let the pain flood through me. At the time, being a bit naive, I didn't realise it was actual labour. I just knew I was in a lot of pain, but I'd been in a lot of pain all throughout. But this one was more intense. And I just held onto the end of the bed and let the pain go through me. And then I felt the sudden urge to go to the toilet, go to the loo. So I went, and they'd already put the pan in the loo. So I sat down, and it just felt really strange, like, you know, it was coming from the wrong end. So I put my hand there, and I could feel, like, you know, the elbow. It was either the elbow or the knee. And I screamed and screamed and I screamed, and I asked them, please put my baby back, push my baby back into me. But obviously they couldn't. And I delivered my baby. They wouldn't tell me if it was a boy or a girl. They wouldn't tell me anything. But my sister at the time, my late sister, who's passed away since, she was a midwife, and she came to see me straight away. And she said, it's a girl, it's a little girl. And I named her Nicki. And they offered me a funeral, but I decided I didn't want a funeral. I just wanted to say my goodbyes at the hospital, and so that's what I did. I mean, I can talk about it now without getting really emotional, because that was 7 years ago. And I said my goodbyes at the hospital and came home and left it at that. It was weeks before I could sleep, and you know, I went through a major depression and had to get a lot of help for that depression. But basically that's what happened with that particular pregnancy. And I've miscarried since, but I think there's a big difference when you have to give birth to a child that, one, is underdeveloped and wasn't ready to be born, and two, that you assume while you're giving birth that there'll be no life there. I mean, she lived for about 15 minutes, and they kept her, refrigerated her, till the next day when my partner could come down and have a look at her as well. But she was just tiny. You know, if you want to look up what a 15-week-old fetus looks like, you'll see, you know, she was just very slim, skin and bone. And there wasn't much to her at all. And that was the birth story for that. I'm going to cut this video here and do my labour and delivery story for my other son in another video. If you've got any questions that you'd like to ask, please don't be afraid. You know, I do feel it, but I don't get emotional about it, and I definitely won't get emotional on camera, I don't think. But if you've got any questions, please feel free to ask, and I'll answer in another video. Okay.